Hey everyone, we're going to learn about welding rods today and what these numbers mean so we can choose the right rod for the right job. Let's take a quick look at a video of what happens if you don't choose the right welding rods, and we can see what kind of danger can be involved with that. So give me a second, I'll get this set up and we'll watch that video. So here's what we're learning today. We're going to learn, students will be able to identify any welding electrode or rod by evaluating the sequence of numbers and deciphering the code so they can use the right electrode for safety and performance. Like we talked about before, what would happen if we didn't use the right rod?
So the weld won't hold.
Right, and then it could cause, what other things would that snowball into?
Things that it would break and things can collapse.
Right, people can get hurt. So we want to, for performance and safety, we want to make sure we choose the right rods. We're doing this by using Chapter 3 in our NCCR book. All right, so as you saw in the video, buildings can collapse and metal can break apart if the right welding rod isn't chosen. So we're going to talk about different rods and different applications. We talk about measurements, so we can measure different size welding rods now and know what we need to use to make our weld perfect. This all can lead us into welding beaded plates and welding T-joints down the line. So in the real world in construction and with engineering, the engineer is going to pick what kind of rods you need to hold that type of metal together. On construction sites, you'll choose rods based on what the engineer specs in the prints, and you'll go that way. You don't need to memorize what these numbers mean on the rods, but we can look them up in our NCCR text. So go ahead, take out your NCCR book and open up to the 3rd chapter. You'll see welding rods in there. What's the page number for that in Chapter 3?
105.
Okay, so we open up to page 105. Let's take a look at that. Like I said, we don't need to memorize this, but we need to know where to find this information. There's a lot of information there. So as we'll see in the first two numbers, let me hand out some rods here. Got these numbers on the rod. You'll see the first two numbers are a 60, 70, or 80, followed by some more numbers will be a 1 or an 8 or a 2. The 60, 70, or 80 is going to be the tensile strength, 70, 60, or 80 in PSI. So that's that's about how much a weld could hold. So if we were to put an 80,000 PSI weld on with an 80,000 PSI rod, and we use 60,000, what could happen?
It'll break.
It could break. Leading to what if it broke?
Building falls down.
Yep, the building would fall down. But you know, we can always use a 80,000 PSI rod for 60 10 applications. But why do you think we wouldn't want to do that?
You don't need something extra strong.
Right, and then the cost is going to be more. So that's why the engineer will spec what they need, and we don't just have one type of rod. We're also going to need to know the thickness of the rod here too. So make sure you're measuring that like we learned before. If you can use your caliper, you can use a tape measure. So we know what the 60, 70, or 80 means. Then you go up to 120, you can find some very heavy duty rods. Next you'll see a digit of a 0 or a 1, and that's going to be the position you can weld in. The 1 position, 0, 1, or 2, that's the weld position. 1, you can do any type of welding. The 2 is only for flat welding or up welding. It's not intended for a lot of stuff. You're not going to see the 2 on those often. And lastly, the last number is the composition of the metal on or the coating on the outside that's going to give off a gas to clean the weld, and that is made up of different calciums or carbons and things like that, and they burn differently. So we need to know that because that's going to affect if we're using positive or negative welding, which we talked about before too. So you also have that rubric in front of you. We're going to use that to score your answers. What I want you to do is use your text right now, and the 3 rods I gave you, just go ahead and list what they are, and we'll go from there. These numbers are derived from the American Welding Society numbers they've come up with, so that way there's a standard in code that we use throughout the construction industry. So you have the red rod in front of you. It looks like it's a 3/32 rod. What is that? What do the numbers on there mean? So we talked about the first 2 numbers are
PSI.
PSI and strength. The second number is going to be
Position.
and the third number is the
Material on the outside.
good, the chemical coating on the outside. So great. So we'll go ahead and we'll take these out to the shop and we'll start practicing some padded beads. We'll start off with the 7018. So make sure you have that one because we're going to set the machine up for 7018. If we try other welding rod, if we try a different rod on the heat setting and the polarity we're gonna put together, it's not going to weld right. It's not going to weld safely, or we're not going to get the desired results. So let's take a walk out to the shop and we'll go from there.